If you only knew the power of the dark side.
2, 1, 0.
Hello there and Happy New Year. For those of you not familiar with me, my name is Matt Corn, aka Witchfinder. I've been involved in the retro gaming community in various ways for about 5 years now. Everything from writing for blogs, magazines, doing websites, gaming events, and also obviously a YouTube channel, the address of which is here. And I've been asked to join the RetroUnlim.com team for the launch of this great new retro themed website in 2013. The main thing I do on YouTube at the moment is the Mastertronic Chronicles, so I'm going to do a special episode of that show exclusively for RetroUnlim. Let's get it started. Okay, so my special edition of Mastertronic Chronicles for RetroUnlim.com is going to focus on my top 10 games by Mastertronic that I've played so far. Just a little bit about what the Mastertronic Chronicles is about. It's basically my attempts to collect a complete set of Mastertronic budget games on cassette for the Commodore 64. So far, out of the 210 titles that are available, I've got about 202 of them. So nearly there. I do actually also blog my progress, which will also be appearing on RetroUnlim.com from 2013 onwards. But for now, let's take a look at my top 10 Mastertronic games. These are purely ones that were released by Mastertronic, not any of the re-releases that they did from companies such as Activision and Ultimate Play the Game. I'm not including those. This is purely top 10 original Mastertronic games. So first up in 10th place is a Mastertronic game released in 1989. It's called Mind Trap. This is a great little puzzle game, not a very spectacular looking game, as most puzzle games aren't. And it's a pretty simple concept. Is you've got to rotate batches of 4 cubes and align them in sort of columns of the same colour. It's one of the earliest games I reviewed when I started Mastertronic Chronicles. It's a nice game. Straightforward stuff really, but pretty enjoyable, quite addictive, and one of those games that you literally could play for hours. At number 9 we have a game from the Entertainment USA sub-label of Mastertronic, and there was only about 4 or 5 games released on this packaging. This is one of them, and it's called Ninja. And it's a pretty straightforward sort of flick screen adventure beat 'em up. You roam around the landscape as the ninja, fighting enemy ninjas. The idea of the game is to rescue a princess. There's various things to pick up which restore your health, and also items you can pick up to throw at your enemies. The scenery is quite nice. The graphics otherwise are a little bit basic. It has got a really wicked Rob Hubbard music to it as well, which is one of the most standout parts of the game. It's a bit bug ridden, but this is more of a nostalgia trip for me because I really loved playing this game as a kid. Not the greatest game in the world, but it is really good fun nonetheless. And at number 8 we have the only game in my top 10 currently that was published on Mastertronic's Added Dimension or MAD branding. It's called Hero of the Golden Talisman, and it's a game by Sean Southern, who was famous for a number of games, some of which will be appearing later in this top 10. And this is a flick screen adventure platform game. The idea is to pick up various items and use them to open doors. There's also dragons to fight. You can swim around in the levels as well. A couple of frustrating things about it. It has got some respawning enemies which are very infuriating, and the animation's a bit shonky in places as well, but overall it's a nice game, plenty of value for money for the £2.99 asking price for a MAD game, and so far the best offering on the MAD label for sure. In 7th place we have the first showing of a game on the classic grid style packaging from Mastertronic, and that's Kane, which is a cowboy and Indians themed multi-stage game. Plenty of stuff going on there. There's a level where you've got to shoot birds to give us peace offerings to the Indians. There's a couple of levels where you've got to ride a horse. There's also a shootout level in a sort of Wild West town. The music and graphics on this are excellent for a budget $1.99 game. The animation on this game is superb, especially the main character, which rather resembles the character from Impossible Mission, another classic C64 game, but he does have a cowboy hat on as well. But overall, great graphics, good sound, plenty of gameplay for your $1.99, and definitely a well recognised Mastertronic classic. In at number 6 in my top 10 is the latest entry. In fact, just reviewed it a couple of weeks ago, and it's called POD, or Proof of Destruction, and this is another offering from the great Sean Southern. This one's a shoot 'em up, very similar to the Jeff Minter sort of psychedelic grid style shoot 'em up games, but there are a couple of interesting elements to this game that I've not seen in many other games. One of which is that each level is completed not by shooting a certain number of enemies, but based on a time limit. And also it features a 2-player mode where the 2 players share both lives and score, so a cooperative 2-player mode. Again, something quite original for this era of gaming. This one was released in 1987. It's quite a feast for the senses as well. As you can see, it's quite psychedelic, backgrounds flashing all over the place. Really unpretentious game, as it calls itself on the back. Just great fun, blasting action. One of those games where you just play it for 10 or 15 minutes, enjoy yourself, and then just switch it off, which is just the kind of game I like. At number 5 we have one of the later Mastertronic releases, an arcade style single screen platformer called Bomb Fusion. This was originally a Spectrum game, and the graphics are pretty much just ported over from the Spectrum, so they're not great, but it does more than make up for that in gameplay. It's kind of a cross between Bomb Jack, Flicky and Bubble Bobble, all of which are great arcade games, and I really do recommend you check it out. This was one of the great surprises to me. I'd never played it before until I reviewed it a few months ago, and it really is good stuff. It's also got pretty cool music on the Commodore 64, obviously not on the Spectrum. Yeah, overall it's a great little game, so do check that one out. Next up we have a £2.99 Mastertronic Plus release, and that's called Rad Ramp Racer. This is one of the latest releases from Mastertronic, in fact, and it's a pretty cool BMX and skateboard racing game. It's kind of reminiscent a bit of California games. It's a split screen game, so you can play 2 simultaneous players against each other. You race up and down the track, jumping off ramps, doing stunts. You can actually do spins in mid-air, so it's got some quite interesting gameplay mechanics. And it also includes a construction kit, so you can actually make your own levels. They are pretty limited, but it's got a great tune as well in the background, and it's got pretty cool graphics, albeit with a lot of brown. But overall, as a package, it's really cool stuff, and well worth checking out. Okay, on to the top 3 then now, and in 3rd place we have Big Mac the Mad Maintenance Man, another grid style Mastertronic release from 1985. This is by Tony Kelly, who was also part of Mr. Chip Software, and this one's a single screen platformer where you've got to go around and collect various objects and then escape through the exit, which makes it sound rather like Manic Miner, but for me it's way more fun than Manic Miner. It's not as punishing, and the graphics, while very simplistic, are quite enjoyable as well. It's just a real throwback to the early days of gaming, where these sort of games were 10 a penny, but this is a really good example of one. And in 2nd place we have another Mr. Chip Software release, also from 1985, the classic Kickstart, which is a 2-player motorbike racing game, or you can race against the computer. And there are 8 courses with jumps and buses to jump over and things like that, cars to drive over, all that kind of stuff. Rather like the Kickstart TV programme, which you may remember seeing in the 80s. It's really nicely put together, really polished, and you can choose which order you race the stages in. I should mention that this is the 3rd game in this top 10 released by Sean Southern, who is by far the most impressive guy who coded for Mastertronic, I think. And yeah, a cracking game. everyone should play it at least once, and once you've played it once, you'll probably want to play it again. If possible, do play it with a friend, because racing against each other is really good fun as well. So we come to the #1 game of all the games I've reviewed so far on the Mastertronic Chronicles. I have reviewed nearly 100 games so far, which is almost half the games released by Mastertronic. And this game, I make no excuses for choosing it. It was a really good game that I played when I was a kid, and still love playing it now. And it is by Entertainment USA from 1986. It's called Street Surfer. And it's a great little game, probably not the most technically accomplished game, and the gameplay is pretty simple, but it is really good fun. Basically, you just drive down a street on a skateboard at ridiculous speeds, collecting Coke bottles, and then occasionally you get to these recycling stations and drop them in the recycling box to earn points. You also have to dodge cars. There's a neat little thing where the cars can actually give you a bottle of Coke out the window, which restores your health and gives you an empty to give into the recycling centre. Probably the first game ever released which is a sort of eco-friendly game, and although it doesn't look great, it's certainly great fun to play. The music's cool as well, by David Whittaker, which actually speeds up and slows down depending on how fast you're travelling down the road. It's got a reasonable representation of sort of driving down a road as well, as good as any 8-bit computer could do at that time. So as I said, I make no excuses for it. It's a great little game and you really should play it if you haven't played it before. Probably won't give you hours and hours of gameplay, but as a high score chasing type game, it really is good fun. So there you have it. That's my top 10 Mastertronic games reviewed so far. I do have over 100 still to review, so do keep checking out my YouTube channel to see those reviews. And also, if you're interested in seeing what my top 10 Mastertronic re-releases are, and also my top 10 worst, that should be bottom 10 worst Mastertronic games, they are shown on my blog. I update that every month with the latest top 10s and bottom 10s. So do check that out as well. That'll be posted on RetroUnlim in the next couple of weeks at most. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.